one point that I want to just briefly talk about before then is I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on what it was like to be a dealer looking for this kind of material back then as opposed to how it is now. And I recognize you're not a dealer, but you know a couple, including
Yeah, I
me.
know a couple.
And you must have a sense of what occasionally comes up. And I just wonder how the life of a dealer, how the market from his perspective might look different than it would from mine, for instance.
Well, there are lots of technological differences, and we all probably recognize that, right? So you're missing the online ability to, search for anything, to communicate quickly. All of those things were true then, that he was basically dealing in person by correspondence. And the main uh, resource for all of them was the auction house, and then private sales. There was a lot of travel involved. So Dr. Rosenbach and his brother Philip were often in Europe. There were large economic drivers to their collecting. The increase in taxation in England led Dr. Rosenbach to be able to make a number of significant library purchases from people who owned like these large manor houses in England
Yeah.
could no longer keep them. So they had to sell their libraries, which were vast. So he did get a lot of material from these large purchases, some of which he kept, but usually that's the small part, right? And then the rest of it was all stock. So there were, numerous ways that he could do this, but somewhat limited because of the lack of technology. I think one of the things that always amazes us is seeing the telegrams that he's sending back and forth and how quickly they work in the older times than you would expect, being somebody who uses a very swift medium in the internet now. But I think also for Dr. Rosenbach, he came into the business without money. He was able to build up stock early from Moses Pollock's stock that he bought at a favorable price from his own mother and aunts, who were the executors of that estate. And he knew the Wideners because Harry Widener was so interested in being a book collector and dealer, and they quickly became friends. And so his early sales to the Wideners are one of the things that you can see just in the receipts that helped him, do everything from sell a lot of stuff, become more prominent, having some cash from them to fund his stock, which he did ask them for, and also just the ability to communicate with prominent people who were buyers. So the reason Dr. Rosenbach, is so notable in a sense is because he had to hustle all the time. So he was always buying and selling immediately because he couldn't afford to be spending as much as he spent at auctions without turning things around.